Good afternoon to one and all, and welcome to this press conference held by the Government of Angola. We will start off by the Honorable Jose Vanterpool leading us off in a word of prayer.
Good afternoon, all. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of life. We thank you for waking us up and bringing us all here safely. We thank you for the blessings that you've bestowed upon us, this great nation of Angola, and all of its people. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that you continue to guide and protect the people of this great nation and us as leaders as we help to lead it. Father, we pray for all of those who are grieving the loss of loved ones at this time. We ask that you give them comfort and guidance during this tough period. Father, we bring before you in prayer, especially our colleague, the Honorable Cardigan Kana, as well as his family, as he goes through the tough experience of losing one nearest and dearest to him as his mother. We ask for your guidance, your blessing, and your comfort be bestowed upon him, as well as all those who are grieving. As we continue to give an update to the people of Angola as to the matters of this great nation, we ask for wisdom, for clarity of tongue, and for stillness of mind. May the messages that we deliver today be received by the people. May it be informative, and may you continue to guide us and bless us as we continue to move this country forward in the best interest of its people. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Vanterpool. And we'd like to start by extending our deepest and heartfelt condolences, as stated by Minister Vanterpool, to the friends, family, and loved ones of persons who would have lost loved ones in recent times, including Minister Cardigan Connor. His mom, Miss Ethelyn Snag, who resided in the UK, passed away last night. Also, we extend condolences to Gershwin Keynes in Colorado, USA, Marjorie Samuel in Florida, USA, and Charles Gums of Blowing Point, Delarius Prince, and Lorna Pontiflet. And we are also aware of persons who may be sick and unwell, and we extend our wishes for a speedy recovery to those persons as well. The format of this press conference will be a little different today, and let me first apologize for the absence of three of our members. Honorable Cardigan Connor, as I mentioned, is currently not in today. We also have the Honorable Cordell Richardson and the Honorable Jason Bryan, who are both in the UK attending a training session for the Public Accounts Committee. And they are in the UK along with Honorable Merrick Richardson, member of the opposition in the House of Assembly. So the format today will be a little different. In recent times, you are aware of the Public Service Compensation Review and the discussion surrounding that. And I just want to take us through where we are and how we got to where we are so that we can all have a clear understanding as to the compensation review process. So we'll start with the Anguilla Constitution. Section 28 of the Anguilla Constitution provides that, if I have a second, is it up? Yeah. On the screen? You have it up? Yeah. Okay. Section 28(2) of the Anguilla Constitution provides that the governor shall not be obliged to consult with nor act upon the advice of the Executive Council with respect to the following: B, the appointment, including the appointment on promotion, transfer, contract, or to an acting office of any person to any public office, including salary scales, allowances, leave, passages, or pensions for which financial provision has been made. Now, as I'm speaking, we are pulling up some of the slides that we have so that it's easy for persons to follow along. The Section 28(2) makes clear that the governor is not obliged to consult or even act upon the advice of Executive Council, which is which comprises the elected members of government with respect to, and in particular, the appointment of any person to public office. And so, including salary scales. And so the discussion that we're having in terms of the public service salary compensation is shown under the section 28.2 of this constitution to be solely within the realm of the governor of Anguilla. Now, it also says for which financial provision has been made. Now, the elected members of government are sit in executive council and make a determination in terms of the funding, the compensation, the salary, total amount that is funded is used to fund the public service compensation. So it is clear under this constitution that there are two separate entities that are working in tandem in relation to this matter. The governor, through the deputy governor's office, appoints public officers. They determine the salary of each of the public officers, and the government of Anguilla, the elected officials, they set aside the monies and ensure that the monies are in the budget to be able to support the payment of the public servants. So it is clear that this is what is set out in the Anguilla Constitution. As a result of that, in June of 2023, in an executive council meeting where the Honorable Premier at the time, the Honorable Dr. Ellis Lorenzo Webster, would have been presiding as the Premier, and the acting governor, Mr. Perrin Bradley, the Honorable Minister for Social Development, Ms. Deanne Kentish Rogers, Honorable Mr. Kenneth Hodge, Honorable Quincy Gomes Marie, the AG, were present. And in this memo, Executive Council Memo 23 of 191, Restoration of Public Service Salaries, gives a clear explanation as to why the compensation review was necessary. And on page 17, it says, the implementation of the reinstitution of increments and the transfer of officers to main scale has proven challenging due to the inconsistency in the treatment of persons in the main scale and persons in the progression scale. As an alternative, and to achieve the same policy objective of addressing the legal requirements for the reinstitution of salaries and improving public officers' remuneration, it is proposed that the salary cuts be reversed in a staggered approach that is affordable and to defer the reinstitution of increments. This deferral would allow for consultancy work on the reinstitution of increments and progressing officers to main scale to occur within 2023-2024 with an intention to reintroduce increments in 2025. Now, what this section does is it actually explains why the public service compensation review was necessary. What it's saying is that there was inconsistency in how persons were treated over the years. So remember, it has been about 18 years since the public service sector has received an increase in salary. So from 2009, they would have had at least 2 cuts, and the increments would have been frozen. So fast forward to where we are, 2026. During that period of time, the inconsistencies that would have been created as a result of persons coming on later on, persons may have come in and received salaries that may have been close to persons who have been there for a longer period of time would have received. So inconsistencies would have been created simply by the passage of time as a result of the situation. So the previous administration in 2023 would have recognized and it's clear in this executive council memo that there was a need. So some persons have been asking, well, why not put a 25% or 15% across the board? And the reason why it could not be across the board is because of this reason, that there's inconsistencies in the scale. So if you applied it across the board, you would still have the inconsistencies in the scale where persons are receiving more than other persons who may be at equal level or even above them in terms of their range. And so there was a need to do a wholesale review and reform of the public service salary structure. And the former administration would have, on the following page, number 9, approved the procurement of a consultancy to conduct a new comprehensive review of the system of progression and job grading of the APS including subvented SOEs and work-related allowances. Now, so it's very clear that there was a decision made in 2023 to procure a consultant to conduct a new comprehensive review of the system of progression and job grading in the Anguilla Public Service. And that is recognized. And what this is showing is that while it is that the administration at the time would have approved a consultant to come in and to look at this regrading exercise, they actually would not have been involved in the actual terms of reference and the work of the consultant. And I say that against the backdrop of early this morning, the deputy governor would have made a presentation on the Class FM radio program, and he would have set out the explanation. And he also said the same thing in the Anguilla House of Assembly when asked by the leader of the opposition, the Honorable Dr. Lorenzo Webster, last Monday. And so I'll ask for that clip to be played because I know that some persons may not listen to the House of Assembly, and so I want everyone to understand where we are.
And I did a falsehood there when I said that would be my last question because, it was raised by several of the members on the government side during their debates about the terms of reference. And I don't know if you can explain a little bit how the terms of reference came about and why the commissioning was done in February of 24 and by February 25 of 2025, we still had not finalized the contracting with PwC.
Thank you for that question again. In terms of compiling the terms of reference, that was driven primarily through my office of the Deputy Governor and through public admin. We would have reached out to our counterparts around the region who would have done this exercise to kind of understand what it is you need to be asking the consultants and so forth. So the terms of reference were put together, again, compiled by the Deputy Governor's Office and the public admin. That was then turned into a procurement document that would have gone out for a competitive bid. PwC won that bid. However, the length of time it took to actually negotiate the contract and settle it after they won the bid took longer than I would have liked, to be quite frank. I'll be honest about that. It took longer than expected. Once they had won the bid, it took us about another 3 months to actually get the contract reviewed and get the document signed. We always anticipated it was going to take at least 6 to 9 months to get the work done. That was what we thought was going to happen and so forth. So they did not actually get down to business until first quarter of 2025, I believe it was, somewhere around March, April, thereabouts. So everything was tracking the way it was supposed to. However, when we hit the snag, there was the first delay, and it was on the GOA side. When I said GOA, I mean on the public service side. And then we had asked, going back to the same point about what was considered, we had asked department heads to make sure that they submitted the relevant information, the job descriptions and all these different things. And that was delayed by about 2 weeks because at the time of the deadline, some persons still hadn't submitted the required documentation. So of course, if you send it in late, then it'll take them some extra time to get it all sorted out. Then we had some instances where person got a bit creative with the job description. So you ended up in situations where had you just simply applied the methodology, we would have had some department heads who would have, again, I don't want to say anybody was trying to be shady, but it ended up in the first instance, some persons in lower grades ended up at least like on a PS level. So of course those things needed to be resolved. So I think those are the sorts of things that kind of led to the delay of the of the final report. But other than that, everything came in when it was 2 weeks delayed. We were expecting it at the end of February. It came in sometime around March.
Thank you. And so it is very clear between the provisions of the Constitution, the Executive Council memo of 2023, and the words of the Deputy Governor in the Anguilla House of Assembly last week that there are dual roles that are taking place, or there are functions that the government of Anguilla as elected members have to do, and the can you hear me? Oh, okay. And the role the deputy governor has to undertake, and the role of the elected members. And the role of the elected members is to fund the compensation reform, which means that we need to ensure that annually we allocate the funding for the salaries. And so in the government of Anguilla's case, we were funded the increase in salary when we went to the House of Assembly last week with a supplementary budget to increase to the tune of $41.41 million. Now, persons have also asked about the parliamentarians and elected members' salaries. Yes, there was also provision made by the consultant to look at a salary scale, and they came up with a salary scale for elected members. And I'll just give you a backdrop as to how that came to be. So in about 2021, there was a Public Accounts Committee governance review, a CPA governance review, which recommended that a comprehensive review of members' remuneration and financial arrangements be undertaken. So the Anguilla House of Assembly has a committee called the Anguilla House of Assembly Administration Committee. And at that time, the members of the Anguilla House of Assembly Administration Committee in 2023, November of 2023, will have been the Honorable Speaker, Mrs. Barbara Webster Bourne, the Honorable Deputy Speaker, Mr. Merrick Richardson, the Honorable Member for Valley North, Mr. Evans McNeil Rogers, who was later replaced by the Honorable Shelia Rogers Webster, the Honorable Member for Single Island Wide Electoral District, Mr. Jose Vanterpool, the Honorable Member for Valley South, Ms. Deanne Kentish Rogers, the Honorable Member for Single Island Wide Electoral District, Mr. Kenneth Hodge, and the Honorable Member for Road South, Mr. Haiti Hughes. These were the members of the Administration Committee in 2023. And in November of 2023, a letter was sent to the Deputy Governor from the Administration Committee. And it stated, and I'll read it for you, and you should have a copy of it that will be uploaded as well. Dear Mr. Bradley, and this is dated 22nd of November 2023. Dear Mr. Bradley, inclusion of allowances of Speaker and members of the Assembly in 2024 Comprehensive Review of Public Service Salaries. The Administration Committee of the Anguilla House of Assembly understands that the Government of Anguilla may undertake a comprehensive review of public service salaries in 2024. The committee has instructed that correspondence be sent to you to request that the allowances of the Speaker and members of the Assembly be included in the review if the review takes place. The 2021 report of the Governance, Organizational and Administrative Review of the House of Assembly identified the need for a comprehensive review of members' allowances. While the proposed public service review is not in the form as recommended by the report, it presents an opportunity to achieve a similar result. The committee asks that when undertaking the review, consideration be given to the factors highlighted in the report as contained in the section on members' pay and remuneration. Respectfully, Lennox J. Proctor, Clerk of the House of Assembly. And so, as a result of this letter from the administration committee, the PricewaterhouseCoopers review would have an assessment, and the report ultimately would have included the proposed the proposed compensation for parliamentarians. And when that report came out, it did in fact make provision for salary adjustments for elected members, including the opposition members, leader of the opposition, parliamentary secretary, speaker of the House, ministers, and the premier. So, since that time, when the draft report came out in about March, the PricewaterhouseCoopers report would have set out the proposed salary scale for the public servants, and the job descriptions were submitted to PwC for them to be able to do the salary scale. The next job, over the weeks since that time, the permanent secretaries of the Ministry of Finance and Public Admin would have met and would have gone through each of the positions and matched them to the salary scale. And the information was kept very close because it is an important document. It is a document that went directly to the Deputy Governor once PwC was finished with its report. I would have asked for a copy to be kept abreast. And when PwC was finished and the matching had taken place, we were able to meet with PwC. They would have provided, they would have gone through the report with all of the elected members and would have provided the explanation and the rationale as to why they created the salary scale in the way that they did. And again, you will have heard, and if you have not heard the Deputy Governor's, the information that he provided this morning in his interview, I invite you to go back and to listen to it. And so coming out of that exercise, once the salaries or the positions were matched with the salary scale that has been recommended by PwC, we were able to identify what the costing would be for the matching of the jobs to the salary scale. When we went to the House of Assembly in last week, Monday, we would have ensured that when we went to the House, the amount covered not just the public servants, but also wage workers. We would have catered separately for pensioners and some of the statutory bodies. And there may be a question, some person said, okay, you know what, you said on radio on Friday that you asked about wage workers, but you didn't ask about public servants. And the reason for that is because the public servants were actually part of the report. So when PwC presented its report, the report was presented, taking into consideration the statutory bodies and the public servants, the established public servants. So it did not include wage workers. And so when the figure initially came to the members of government, we asked whether or not the wage workers had been included. So there was a significant exercise that had to have been undertaken because wage workers are employed across the public service sector. And the largest sector that has the wage workers would be in education, some 200 wage workers in the education department. And so you can imagine that there was a significant exercise that had to have been undertaken in order to identify the job descriptions for each wage worker, the compensation, and how much of an uplift they would be able to get. And so that took a couple of other weeks. Now, there was also some pressure on behalf of the members of government to be able to bring the funding to the House as early as possible to cater for the compensation, the payment of public servants, and we were looking ideally at the end of June. So in order to be paid for the end of June, the salary information has to be presented at least by the first or the second week, and if not, then we won't be able to make the June deadline. So that's why there was a need for us to get to the House of Assembly as quickly as possible to make the funding envelope available. So just to reiterate, what we took to the House of Assembly was not the PwC report. What we took to the House of Assembly was the money for the governor's office and the deputy governor to be able to allocate for the increase in the salaries for the public servants. So think of it in this way. Every year we pass the budget, and in the budget for every year includes salaries for all of the public servants. Now, those salaries have been set for a number of years. In order to pay the increase, we had to come back to the House with an additional budget to provide for that increase. And so that's what we did last week. We brought the monies forward so that the public servants can get the uplift. So since that time, there seems to have been a number of concerns that were raised in terms of the structure and where persons were placed in the structure. And over the last week, you started to hear concerns because public admin was meeting with various public servants, speaking with them, and when they were identifying where they were in the scale, some persons would have expressed disappointment. There's been challenges. There seem to have been questions in terms of junior public servants receiving equal amount as those who were senior supervisory who supervised them. And so as a result of that, there was a need to be able to revisit. So when I took to the radio on Friday, I would have encouraged persons. At the time, I had not had the opportunity to speak with the deputy governor and with the PS of public admin because they were at a conference. I was able to speak with them on Friday night at 8 p.m. And then the members of government, we had an urgent executive council meeting on Saturday at 10 a.m. to be able to have a overall discussion in terms of where we were, the number of concerns that were being raised, and the next steps. So at this point in time, we're not aware as to the extent of the concerns that are being raised. We know we're hearing of certain areas, we have certain examples, and I will encourage on radio, and I once again today will encourage all persons, all civil servants who have a concern in terms of where they are to lodge those concerns at the public admin office. And on yesterday afternoon, actually, or yesterday midday, the deputy governor would have issued a statement, a communique to the public servants. And I want to take the opportunity and read it in case persons may not be aware. And it is dated the 14th of June, 2026, which was yesterday, to all public officers, staff, associations, Public Service Commission, Public Service Integrity Board, and copy to HE, the governor, and the ministers of government. Communique from the Honorable Deputy Governor. Their colleagues. Subject: pay and grading review, further engagement, and next steps. The Office of the Deputy Governor recognizes the strength of feeling among some members of the public service following the recent communication of outcomes arising from the Public Service Pay and Grading Review. The review was undertaken by independent consultants, PricewaterhouseCoopers, who consulted across the public service, reviewed roles and responsibilities, and benchmarked remuneration against comparable roles and salaries across the region. The approach taken sought to be objective, evidence-based, and fair. It was designed to look at posts consistently across the public service rather than on the basis of individual opinion or preference. However, the Office of the Deputy Governor understands that some public servants are disappointed or concerned about how the outcome applies to them personally. Following discussions with the Honorable Premier and Cabinet colleagues, implementation of the new graded structure and the related salary structure has been placed on hold. This is intended to be a meaningful pause, allowing time for the concerns raised by officers to be properly considered, for further engagement to take place, and for the framework to be applied in a fair, consistent, and evidence-based manner. The Department of Public Administration staff will continue visiting departments to explain the grading structure, help staff understand the proposed outcomes, and listen carefully to concerns that have been raised. Officers who are dissatisfied with the proposed grading or salary outcomes are encouraged at this stage to raise their concerns informally through their head of department and during the departmental engagement sessions being facilitated by public administration. To assist with the timely conclusion of this engagement phase, officers are encouraged to submit any concerns by Friday, 27 June 2026. The Department of Public Administration is also finalizing a formal review mechanism to provide officers with an appropriate avenue for concerns to be considered following the conclusion of the current engagement phase. This process will focus on clarification, consistency of application, and any material issues arising from the grading outcomes. Further details, including the relevant criteria and timelines, will be communicated in due course. The Office of the Deputy Governor remains committed to supporting a modern, fair, and professional public service and appreciates the continued engagement of public officers throughout the process. Warm regards, Perrin Bradley, Honorable Perrin A. Bradley, Deputy Governor. Now, let me say this. The issue of compensation pay is very personal to everyone. And it does have important significance, of course, to all of our lives, to each of us, to our families, etc. And so we understand that it's an emotional issue. And so we understand the concerns that are being raised, especially if there seems to be irregularities or inconsistencies in terms of how any one civil servant is being treated, the public officers in terms of their range, and there may be comparisons with other public officers as well in terms of where they are and where they feel that they should be. And so I want to encourage everyone. Yesterday in the at the church service, Pastor Smith would have said, "Closed mouths don't get fed." And I want to reiterate that, because if it is that any public officer has a concern with respect to the compensation, where they fall in the category, then I would encourage them before the 27th of June to lodge their concerns either with the department head, if they are a member of the teachers union, with the teachers union. Yesterday, on Friday, after I made my announcement on radio, we have received a letter from the Anguilla Public Service Association, and I commend them for sending their formal letter to be able to highlight some of the concerns that the public service were expressing and asking for a meeting to be held with the deputy governor. And so I want to encourage persons to do that as well. We want to make sure that by the 27th of June, we have a clear idea as to how widespread the concerns are. Now, since the deputy governor would have made this announcement, a number of civil servants, public officers, have been expressing disappointment because in their departments, they are of the view that everything is good. They have no complaints. They're satisfied with the process and the outcome of the process. But it is difficult in the face of other concerns coming forward to be able to move forward and give salary increases for some persons and not for others, etc. We need to take a holistic view at the situation, whether or not the issue is a salary scale as provided by the PwC in its report, whether the issue is where persons were placed in that salary scale, and whether or not it's something that we need to reconsider as a whole. And so the time frame given, the 27th of June, allows us that time to be able to take an assessment as to where we are and where we need to go from there. At this point in time, you're hearing a number of persons speaking out. Families are involved as well. So you're hearing family members that may be expressing their views, and people in the community generally. So we want to get a clear idea as to how deep are the issues and concerns, how widespread across the public service, to be able to deal with it in the most effective way possible. And so I want to encourage persons to do that before the 27th of June, and then we'll be able to go from there. So I think one other point to raise is that we don't want to be in a position where expectations have arisen and where you've started a compensation and because of the review that's taking place, there may have to be some adjustments. That could open the government of Anguilla to legal liability, etc. And so for that reason, there has to be a holistic view. And that's why some persons have asked, why not move ahead with the ones that are okay? and then address the ones that have concerns. We don't want to do it piecemeal, and we can't do it piecemeal because the review may impact the entire scale, and so we understand that persons have been looking forward to it. We too, when we went to the House of Assembly to provide the funding, we had expected that it would be rolled out, and but I guess it's difficult to expect that every single person would be satisfied. And so we have to take the time, we have to go through it, we have to listen to the concerns, and we have to be able to ascertain whether or not those concerns can be addressed within the existing scheme or whether or not some other decision has to be taken in relation to that. So that was, I mentioned the $41.4 million that we would have estimate for the total compensation increase. The supplementary budget that we brought to the House of Assembly last week would have included not just the monies for the increase in public servant compensation, but it also would have included monies for the overseas medical treatment, an increase of some $3 million. It also included the additional funding for health services, as well as the fuel relief. Now, many of you may remember that since April of this year, the government of Anguilla has undertaken to support the people of Anguilla by way of providing fuel relief across the areas that impact where fuel impacts. So, for instance, the fuel surcharge at Anglec, the government of Angola would have stepped in to be able to provide for that, and also the changing from the cost insurance freight at the ports and moving to FOB. So the government of Anguilla would have removed customs duties from freight and insurance. And so these steps were done to be able to provide some ease for the people of Anguilla. When we brought the fuel relief, we initially calculated that anything over 42 cents per kilowatt hour for the fuel surcharge would be covered by the government of Angola. We anticipated that the following month, and it did happen, where it would have gone up by 80 to 88 cents. So in April, the government of Angola was paying the 46 cents per kilowatt hour, and the homes and businesses across Angola were paying 42 cents per kilowatt hour. And so the government was actually paying more for the fuel surcharge than that every person in Angola would have been paying, households and businesses. We would have been informed towards the end of May that in fact the fuel surcharge had increased to $1.04 per kilowatt hour. And the government committed to continuing to pay the difference over the 42 cents per kilowatt hour. So in May, we paid 62 cents per kilowatt hour, while homes and businesses paid 42 cents per kilowatt hour. So in April, the government of Angola paid 46 cents per kilowatt hour, while homes and businesses paid 42 cents. And in May, the government of Angola paid 62 cents per kilowatt hour, while homes and businesses paid 42 cents per kilowatt hour. So that is a significant output that the government of Angola would have undertaken. And so in terms of the fuel relief, and the homes and businesses were a total of some 8,000 customer accounts, and that includes hospitality sector as well, which was we would have paid anything over the 65 cents for the hospitality sector. So in April, the payment that we made to Anglec was $3.35 million for that fuel relief. And in May, the bill was $5.35 million. We paid that last week, $5.35 million. So between April and May alone, we've paid a total of $8.7 million EC for fuel relief to ensure that the people of Angola are able to continue to have a decent standard of living. And the reason why that's important is because it creates stability in our country. We want to ensure that we continue to support our most vulnerable, that we support the average Anguillan, the average resident of Anguilla, and as well our businesses and our visitors to the island. And so implementing that fuel relief means that for right now, we have a stability that many other countries cannot do to the same extent. And so we've looked, and by and large, in the Anguilla context, we have provided a significant amount of relief comparable to what other countries have provided for their citizens. And that's important to remember. So when we brought the supplementary budget to the House of Assembly, we anticipated that the fuel relief would be needed for much longer than 2 or 3 months. And so we ensured that there was sufficient funding that we can utilize over the next few months while we pay attention to what is happening in the global landscape, what is happening in the Middle East in terms of the Iran war. And so we are hoping that over the next few months there could be some stability. We are hearing that there is indeed maybe the beginning of a ceasefire, the terms of an agreement between the parties, etc. And all the world, not just Angola, we're hoping that that's the case because it can provide that relief that we need in the very short term. So the reason why I mentioned this is because when we spoke about the supplementary budget, we included the items that we've spoken about, but we also would have included initially the cost for the purchase of a London office building to the tune of $9.5 million. We took out the provision, the line item for the purchase of the London office building to bring it back, given sufficient time and giving the opposition sufficient notice so that they can prepare appropriately for the debate when it comes back to the House. So what's interesting is that the 9.5 million, I want persons to pay attention to what I'm saying in relation to this. April and May bills were a total of $8.7 million for the fuel relief that the government of Anguilla has taken on to ensure that we retain some degree of stability in the country. 8.7 million. The purchase of an office building in the UK is 9.5 million that we set aside in the budget for this year. So 8.7 in relief, not that there's anything tangible. So we don't get anything out of it. What we get is we're able to provide and ensure that our people are able to have a decent standard of living during this period of time, compared to the purchase of an asset, which is a building, an office building in London at the tune of $9.5 million. And so I just want to put that in context so that we understand. And if we look forward, if we're anticipating that over the next 3-4 months, we have to continue to provide the relief, the fuel relief, then it means that that figure will go significantly higher than even the cost of an actual physical asset in the UK. And so I want to turn to speaking about the London office building that is being proposed, because we have spoken about it from December. We have not acquired it as yet. Is still we're looking at the surveys, we're doing the assessments, we've engaged the not only the AG's chambers here, but solicitors in the UK to assist us. We have real estate agents who are working with us in the UK. So we're doing everything by the book. We want to get a survey. We're in the process of actually assessing the survey to be able to see what the building, how to say it? We want to assess the building to determine whether or not there are any issues or concerns that we should be concerned about. Thank you. We want to assess the structural components in the building. We want to make sure that everything is in order. And so we're doing the proper due diligence. We're taking the time, and we've been informing the people all along. So we're now in June. We've been talking about this from December, and we still haven't acquired it. So we know, and that's why it wasn't difficult for us to remove the allocation in the supplementary budget, because we know that when we come back, that we will ensure that everything is in order and we are well prepared for the debate that the opposition would like to have. So why is it important for Anguilla to have a permanent physical presence in the UK? The question is not whether Anguilla can afford to invest in a permanent presence in London. The real question is whether Anguilla can afford not to. As a British overseas territory, many of the decisions that affect Anguilla's constitutional development, economic resilience, security, education, healthcare, and international representation continue to involve engagement with institutions based in the United Kingdom. And a permanent government-owned office in London would be a strategic national asset that serves the interests of Anguillians for generations to come. So there are 6 main points that I want to highlight. 1, strengthen Anguilla's representation and advocacy. London remains a center of engagement between the UK and the overseas territories. A permanent office would provide a dedicated base for engagement with the UK government, Parliament, Overseas Territories Directorate, investors, development partners, and international organizations. Greater visibility for Anguilla's priorities and concerns, improved coordination with every other overseas, no, not practically, every other overseas territory, including Montserrat, has an established presence in the United Kingdom. And so Anguilla is leaps and bounds behind other overseas territories in terms of having that presence. And the long-term financial prudence is also another factor. While the acquisition of a property requires upfront investment, ownership can be more economical than perpetual rental expenditure. I know as Anguillians, we like to own our own. We don't normally rent, and if we rent, it's not for a significant period of time. We rent until we can build our own and own our own. And the reason for that is because you can avoid escalating costs. And so too, the purchase or the acquisition of a property avoids escalating commercial rental costs in London. We won't be subject to constant increases and having to find another place if we can no longer afford the rental the rental costs. Building equity through ownership of a tangible asset. So in our books, the acquisition of a permanent presence in the UK would be an asset. Something that if we wanted to sell in the future, we'd be able to sell. And land goes up in price. Normally, it does not decrease. And so to the location, the proposed location of Fleet Street. We've seen recently where Fleet Street is about to undergo renovations and an upgrade. And so what that means is that property values in that area are likely to increase as well. And there's the ability to generate income by leasing unused office space when appropriate. Currently, the building that we're looking at is multi-floor, and they're currently rented. The government of Anguilla can decide if they want to utilize 1 or 2 of the floors and rent out the others to recoup some of that investment. A well-selected property could become both an operational headquarters and a long-term investment asset. Point number 3, supporting economic development and investment promotion. A London office would serve as a gateway for investors seeking opportunities in Anguilla. The office would promote tourism, financial services, renewable energy, technology, and infrastructure projects. Now, right now, many persons are saying to us that while our domain name is well known throughout the US, there's very little, if any, presence in the UK, in Europe. And so establishing a presence in the UK will be able to support further expanding the reach of our .ai domain name, in addition to our tourism and our other products that we want to be able to sell and to promote outside of Anguilla. We'll be able to host investment forums and business meetings, facilitate stronger relationships with international businesses and development institutions, and it would create opportunities for job creation and economic diversification back in Anguilla. The 4th reason, improving access to UK-based services. Many Anguillians travel to the UK for education, medical treatment, professional training, government related matters. And a permanent office will provide information and support services, assistance during emergencies, and coordination with the UK institutions and agencies. We've been speaking about sending, and this is a project that the government of Angola, through the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Public Admin Department, is seeking to support the tertiary education for young persons, in particular our young men, to be able to go off and learn a trade and be able to come back and contribute meaningfully to Anguilla. So when we're talking about sending off our children, we're talking about medical needs. We have many persons who travel to the UK for urgent medical attention. We have persons that sometimes they have to pick up and they travel immediately without understanding what the system requires, without understanding the process. And so we need to have persons there to be able to help us. So this isn't that we're taking care of people that are not connected to us. This is us taking care of our own people. This is us taking care of us who happen to be in the UK. And a permanent office would become a practical resource for Anguillians abroad. Number 5, enhancing regional and international cooperation. A London office would serve as a hub for collaboration with other overseas territories, Commonwealth organizations, academic institutions, development agencies, and it would strengthen Anguilla's ability to participate in policy discussions and access technical assistance and funding opportunities. And the sixth reason, preserving national interests for future generations. Governments come and go, but strategic assets endure. So long after this administration is gone, there will be an asset for the benefit of our Anguillians in London, in the UK. And it will create a lasting institutional presence, reduce dependence on temporary arrangements, demonstrate confidence in Anguilla's future, leave a valuable asset for future generations of Anguillians. So an office in London is an investment in representation, economic development, international engagement, and national resilience. And just as previous generations invested in schools, roads, ports, and public institutions, this generation has the opportunity to invest in a strategic asset that strengthens Anguilla's voice and influence within the United Kingdom and beyond. And so this decision should not be viewed as not as a long-term investment in Anguilla's future prosperity. This decision should be viewed as a long-term investment in Anguilla's future prosperity, security, and global presence. So I've outlined the reasons, but in particular, I want persons to remember. And we had a town hall meeting last night, our first of a series of town hall meetings. And I will encourage persons to come out and to listen to the facts, to pay attention to what's happening, to get an update as to what's happening across the various ministries. But in relation to the London office building in particular, when we look at what we are doing for our people over the next couple of months in fuel relief, I would say that when we compare it to the amount of money to purchase a national asset, that is an asset worth investing in. And persons have asked, okay, well, you know what, why not focus on Anguilla? And I want to express to the people of Anguilla that the purchase of a office building in the UK does not stop our local investment. In fact, we have increased investment for our capital projects and in our various projects across Anguilla. And I just want to highlight some of the areas. At the Albina Lake Hodge Comprehensive School, we're investing $12 million, and that's in our 2026 budget for the sports hub and other activities to take place and to complete the development of ALHCS in certain areas. Zenada Haven, compared to the 2025 budget of the APM, that was $2.2 million under the APM 2025 budget. In our 2026 budget, we have increased the funding for Zenada Haven to $9.5 million. Water infrastructure, in 2025 was 4 million. In our AUF 2026 budget is 9 million. Health in 2025 was 4.5 million. In 2026 budget, 13 million. Sports, 700,000 in 2025. 2026, 1.5 million. Road development, 7 million in 2025. 2026, 14 million. Lansing Bowl Cultural Center. In our 2026 budget, we included the sum of $550,000 to develop and to finish the completion of Lansing Bowl, the second floor, so as to be able to house the festival's office. And it still has more work to be done before it's completed. And so when I say before it's complete, I mean the entire Lansing Bowl Cultural Center project. But for 550,000 was set aside to build out the festival's office, and that work, if not completed, is very soon will be completed very shortly. And so there is nothing that the government of Anguilla is forsaking on island in order to acquire the London office building. In fact, we have been able to provide the additional relief, as I've stated, because we have the ability, we have the flexibility in terms of the revenue that has been coming in. We know as well that we've had a phenomenal tourism season. Even up to today, we're in June of 2026, and many of our hotels are full. And so our tourism sector has overperformed for this year. The domain name has overperformed for this year as well. And so the expectations, the revenue for the domain name has come in beyond what was anticipated year to date. And so at the end of the day, we are not sacrificing anything locally. We are continuing to look out for our people. We're continuing to invest in health, education, sports, all of the necessary road infrastructure, capital projects across the island. These are things that we're committed to continuing, and we are continuing. They're included in our 2026 budget. And in our supplementary budget, we've also included $10 million to be able to pay out ANGLEC with all of the court cases and the outstanding judgments and matters that existed before we took office. And the reason why we've allocated $10 million to pay that out as well is because we want to support renewable energy infrastructure. We need ANGLEC to move forward as quickly as possible so that we do not run the risk of ending up having to provide the type of relief we're providing now in the future continuously. And so we need to be able to develop our infrastructure in terms of renewable energy. Paying ANGLEC this $10 million pays out the debt obligations and the other obligations that we have, and allows them to move as quickly as possible towards the renewable energy investment that we need them to move forward to. And so our 2026 supplementary budget has increased, yes, but you can see that everything in it has been and is for the benefit of the people of Anguilla. So I think that brings me to the end of this presentation. I think the Honorable Mr. Evan McNeil Rogers may want to say a few words, and then we'll open up to the floor for questions.
Thank you very much, Honorable Premier, and pleasant good afternoon to you who are here in person and to those who are listening in, viewing via the various media networks. Madam Premier, I must admit and place on record my profound appreciation for your presentation last evening and again here this afternoon, emphasizing how important it is to be able to justify the need to have that Anguilla office in the United Kingdom. I note that you mentioned we will not be sacrificing any local development or improvement in order to subsidize the purchase of the London office. In fact, it is an investment in addition to the local entities that are taking place here in Anguilla. I want to commend you for that and for really and truly outlining the whole process with respect to the salaries review and compensation package. The Anguilla Constitution, you reference Section 28, subsection 2. I believe it is important, for all of us as Anguillians to go back and refresh. And for those who never had a chance or who were not interested in reading the Constitution, really and truly should have a look at that section. And I must admit, under your stellar leadership, that the administration has taken the responsibility for sitting down with the deputy governor as well as the public administration to sort out some of the anomalies that were found in the exercise that took place. Just wanted to put that on record. This morning we would have had the launch of the Anguilla Med Access, the official launch right here in this room. It was significant and it was heartfelt in the sense that a number of cards were given out to Anguillians who qualify for the program. I would have said it here on previous press conferences that Anguillians under the age of 70 without any insurance at all, uninsured, who are diabetic and hypertensive, this program in its first phase is for you, and that the two private pharmacies along with the public pharmacy is involved in dispensing the medication to our Anguillians who are uncovered or uninsured going forward. Because of some technical difficulties, we were unable to have the Sharps join us live because they are the ones who would have financed this program for the first 12 months, the pilot program. And I did reach out to them for them to be able to join us, live while the ceremony was taking place. They were not able to do that, but of course, technology is what it is today. I'm able to share the live with them so they will have a chance to look at it. But in the interim, they would have sent me a message which I would like to convey to the people of Anguilla, to the government and people of Anguilla. And I quote, "We are doing this because we love Anguilla and its people. We want to help the people of Anguilla, and we hope that they prosper from this gift of ours to them. We look forward to continue working with the people of Anguilla as we move forward to improve the quality of healthcare for all its citizens." For that, I would want to reiterate our thanks and our appreciation for this noble gesture that the Sharps would have given us. I went this morning during my presentation, I said that I wasn't the premier, but I would advance the notion of having June 15th. This is the middle of the year. We call it the Sharps Day in Anguilla. I also apologize for not being able to, launch the mammography day as well. The equipment that they would have donated to the people of Anguilla to the tune of over $680,000 US with 5-year warranty, parts and labor covered. The reason for that is because we are awaiting a module so that all the specs of the instrument can be utilized. Not that it isn't working or available at the moment, but this module would increase the capacity. And I think that having it totally completed, then we will launch that program as well. So we wanted to launch both of them today, mid-year, mid-month, mid-year. But we'll do that hopefully before the end of this month. And it will be a 3-week period where anyone would be able, in Anguilla, would be able to go and get the mammography exam done free of cost. And a lot of males in this room, but there's breast cancer in men too, even though it's rare. So, we are encouraging all of the individuals on island to really do their assessment. And again, to thank the shops and everyone who was involved in terms of the ministry, in terms of the Department of Health Services, and so on and so forth. And just to say that as we go along, improving the quality of services, whether it's through human resource improvement, equipment, instrumentation, and so on and so forth, to move this country forward. And to let you all know, maybe I did before, I was talking about soft skills training. You all would have heard that on the 2nd of this month it began. It is in progress as we speak through the Anguilla Community College. And that in itself is another aspect of improving the quality of healthcare in Anguilla. And again, in addition to that, the acting healthcare commissioner and myself will be off tomorrow to Miami to attend the World Health Expo at the Miami Convention Center. We are scheduled to meet with Philips Manufacturing Company, one of the world's largest medical equipment companies. We are having discussions with respect to an MRI, an upgraded, a modernized MRI, because the one that we have, it's a Philips brand, and it's archaic. Manufacturing of spare parts no longer exists, and it really makes no sense for us to continue to be spending money on fixing that. It's difficult to get helium because it is helium based. With all the war and the uncertainties in the Middle East and so on and so forth, it's making a lot of things difficult. So we're looking to upgrade that as well. So thank you.
Thank you. And let me join as well in thanking Mr. and Mrs. Sharp for their investment in Anguilla. They are making wonderful contributions and we appreciate their work. Thank you. We'll now open the floor for questions.
Good afternoon. I'm here at the Anguillan newspaper. I was out for a while, basically because of work-related situations, but I'm glad to be back after a couple of months.
Welcome back, Mr. Harris.
Thank you. Thank you. With regard to the first issue, the highlighted issue on the salaries review, I gather that the government officials did not have, or the cabinet didn't have any privilege to vet or to assess the report. I think, though, that it would have been prudent for someone from either public admin or some other agent that would have been able to analyze or to assess the report, the recommendations from Price Waterhouse Coopers before any letters of engagement were sent to the public. And wouldn't you agree that that should have been the approach?
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying that for one. Okay, so what I said earlier, and I'll clarify how the process took place. So the Deputy Governor's Office will have engaged PricewaterhouseCoopers. They prepared a report. That report was given to the Deputy Governor's Office. The public service officials, some public service officials who have looked at the report, because what the report provided was a scale, right? And the public officials had to take our existing job titles and fit them into the scale. So when we would have seen the report, when the report was shared with us, it is a scale, but it didn't say that Mary is in X or Joe is in Y. You see, because that's a separate exercise. So what they did was they took all of the job descriptions, they created a scale, and then they handed it to the deputy governor's office, and then the DG's office, through the public officials, had to match it with the job positions. And so that is, so you're saying that after PwC would have submitted it to the DG, that the DG's office should have then engaged someone else to vet and review whether the
Yeah,
consultant information was accurate?
for the elements of safe, fairness, equity, and
I-
control.
I think what may have, what could have happened, and you know, hindsight is always 2020. What could have happened could perhaps could have been further discussions once the report came back,
Right.
and engagement prior to finalizing and sending out, you know,
The letters of
whatever
engagement.
letters and stuff like that that they had started to. So. And it's only when it's saying those out that maybe that those issues arose, but perhaps had there been an additional consultation phase that took place after,
Right.
that could have addressed some of the concerns that
Ex-
were raised.
exactly.
So at this
That's-
point in time, I don't know whether or not it's been, you can say that there's something wrong with the structure. It could be the matching of the positions to the structure, or it could be the structure itself. So I think over the next couple of weeks, we'll be, with the information that comes forward, we'll be able to understand a little better as to what the issues and concerns are.
So what method would you use now during the pause? What method would be used to
So,
to regulate?
So what the deputy governor, because remember, as I said, we started off with the constitution, the salaries, the jobs, that doesn't fall for the elected government. So our job is to provide the funding. But because of the number of issues that have taken place, we are getting a little bit more involved, and to understand what exactly took place,
Right, yes.
and see where we can come to some sort of approach to be able to benefit, if not all, then the majority of persons who are in the public service. So what I understand, based on what the deputy governor had indicated in his letter, and as well during the interview this morning, was that they would take the time in public admin. Persons who may feel aggrieved should submit their concerns to public admin, and then that process they will go through looking at whether the concerns are valid, legitimate, etc. I am not sure if there's a space for that for the elected officials, but certainly we are very keen to, and we're very concerned, and we want to ensure that these issues are fixed as much as possible.
So would Price, Waterhouse, and Coopers be
They're going
engaged
to
again?
be engaged, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
A
They
question.
have, and in fact, when we spoke with them on Saturday, they confirmed their willingness to
review.
to remain engaged and work through the process.
Right. Question concerning the London House,
The London office building.
the London office building. When it was first announced in December, we gathered that it was a particular house that was looked at. And along the line, the understanding was that it was being searched. A house was being searched to be selected. So, is it a particular house, as one individual house, or was there a exercise of choosing a house or selecting a house in the area?
So while we were in the UK, the Honorable Kyle Hodge and myself were able to travel to the UK in December. And we had some of our media and communications team there in December as well. So we looked at a number of different properties. We had the opportunity, the PS of Finance was there as well. So we were looking through a number of properties while we were on the ground. As I mentioned, we had realtors that had lined up the opportunity. So we went looking at different places and seeing in the UK I've never lived in the UK, so for me it was interesting to see that there were office buildings behind office buildings in back streets, etc. And so we looked at those that were along the main thoroughfare, and then those that were, you know, behind other office buildings, etc. And so at that point in time, we had not come to any firm conclusion. What we did see is that there was a possibility for this particular one. But we wanted to continue looking even though we had returned to Anguilla. So the realtors were engaged, continue to remain engaged to see and identify whether there were any other properties within a certain range, price range that we gave to them that would be able to fit into what we were looking for. And so that process continued for a little while. And then in the meantime, we decided to submit an offer to the one particular property. Submitting an offer doesn't mean that it's binding. Submitting an offer opened the door for due diligence. So without the due diligence, without the offer, you wouldn't get the due diligence to do additional information. You can do general searches, but certain information wouldn't be open to you unless you make an offer. So we did make an offer so that we can access the information. We engaged UK solicitors so that they can do due diligence as well. And we engaged surveyors for them to do a survey of the property. And then in the meantime, there were discussions that were being held with the owner of the property in terms of the rental arrangements, etc. You know, because he also has a presence there in the building as well, and how that would work. So it's taken 6 months, you know, for us to get where we are. And so so we're looking at that particular building, but we haven't closed our eyes for anything else,
Okay.
if I should say.
There is a sense of concern in
Oh,
the
yeah, it's five. That building is five stories.
5 stories. Okay. There's a sense of concern in the UK, though, right? Because I have contacts with people there, and it was questioned, why not have a site in Slough Box, where there's a greater population of Anguillans.
Yeah.
So what's your take on that?
Yeah, what you would find is that Anguillians have spread far and wide beyond. So maybe in the 60s and 70s, a lot of people went and settled in Slough. I have many family members that are still in Slough that I go and I visit regularly when I go there. But what you're seeing with Anguillians leaving Anguilla today is they're not necessarily going directly to Slough. They're going to Birmingham, they're going to Maidenhead, some of them are in London, and so they are in a number of places. London is central. And so for the 6 reasons I set out, it's more than just establishing a presence where we have a number of Anguillians that are together. We're also establishing a presence in a financial capital, so that we can take full advantage of all of the opportunities that are there in the financial capital, as well as be a presence for persons. And Slough is about a half an hour by train from London,
Okay.
my recollection. It is? Okay, thank you. And so you can get on the train, and actually there's a station at near to Fleet Street that you can actually walk to, you know, the location I said. So all of those factors were taken into consideration in terms of being easily accessible, being in the financial hub, being in a location that persons can get to, etc.
Okay.
And just to add to that, Premier, the last couple of weeks when I had the opportunity to be there, I was able to travel from Slough on the Elizabeth line straight to the Farringdon train station. I remember Farringdon because of the Farrington,
Right.
and was able to walk to 21 Fleet Street. That is how accessible it is, you know, throughout the UK.
Okay, my last question on this issue.
Pardon me? Oh, absolutely. You know, centrally local.
My last question on this issue is that while I do agree that we should have a presence in the UK, and I wholeheartedly support that, I want to just ask, how many of the overseas territories have their own buildings or their own properties in the UK?
There are some that own outright, but there are a number of them that are leasing. And the question that you have to ask is what is the cost? Because, for instance, many of the overseas territories have been in the UK since the 80s or the 90s. So imagine leasing property over that period of time in London, in a central location, and fast forward to 2026 and imagine the amount of cost and whether or not it would not have been worth it to actually have purchased a building. And we can't talk for other overseas territories, all right? And as I said during my presentation, as Anguillians, we know about owning assets. We're not persons that lease. And so when you, and there is a school of thought, there are some places where the citizens are asking, why did you not purchase? And how much money have you spent in lease payments over the years? So that's the question that needs to be asked, the calculation. But I think in the Anguilla context, especially if you look at when I say compared to the fuel relief and covering the cost of the purchase of an asset over a 2-month period that we're spending to be able to cover that relief for the people of Anguilla, I don't see how it could be more rational. And any person who's suggesting it's better to lease than to own, I'm not sure exactly. It must be a political angle because I've heard some opposition members say that, and to me, I think that that is short-sighted, and it's probably just to say that you're opposing for opposing's sake.
I did some quick research, and it indicates that BVI, Falkland Islands, Gibraltar, and Bermuda, they all own buildings in the UK. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Nyamke Brooks from Radio Anguilla. My first question is in relation to the salary revision. I understand the whole purpose of the pause and review stage is because a number of civil servants and members of the public have expressed dissatisfaction with the outcome of it. And now you're telling us that a review will be done by the same public administration, deputy governor, and PricewaterhouseCoopers, into the same, what they would have presented to the civil servants. How effective do you think this will be that the same persons that civil servants, think made a mistake will come out and say that they did make a mistake if there was a mistake made?
Well, I actually don't see the problem with that, because what I think is that persons, if there are grievances, that persons need to highlight what those grievances are, because there may be different reasons for the grievances. Some may be because someone junior to them is placed in the same category as they are, and that's a legitimate concern. Others may be that, if you feel that you do more work than a particular person, and you see that they're getting paid more than you. Other circumstances could be that there's a disconnect between the job description that the person is doing and the actual work that they're doing. And so if the job description submitted didn't accurately reflect that, then that's another concern as well. So there are varying concerns that could be the reason why some persons are disgruntled. But as of now, we don't know how broad those concerns are. Some departments actually have not even met with public admin as yet either. And so there are concerns being raised maybe because of things that they've seen circulating, but not because they've had the consultation and has been given certain information. So there are a number of concerns that I am hearing, that all of us are hearing. And so you can't throw the baby with the bathwater. You got to see what the issue is. Maybe you have to change the water, right? But you have to assess what the problem is first before you make a determination that the process wasn't good.
Yes. And talking about the process, another concern that civil servants have been raising is that they have not seen the methodology, the report from PricewaterhouseCoopers, etc. what is the possibility that that can be? I know that you have a copy because you requested
I-
from the deputy governor.
Yeah, I asked to see it, but that's a document that
Yes.
was provided to the deputy governor.
Yes.
He was asked in the House of Assembly by the opposition members
Mm-hmm.
whether or not those documents could be released. And he said yes, eventually, but not at this time. So any questions
Well,
in
what's the
terms-
purpose of not having it released at this time?
You're gonna have to ask the deputy governor. He
fair enough.
engaged PwC. We didn't. Yeah.
Yes, I know also that the revised salaries were to be made retroactive to May of this year, or May to past month. Following this pause and review, will the salaries still be made retroactive to May?
Yeah, at this time, I can't say that. This is something, again, because salaries fall under the governor's portfolio. What I can say is that it depends on the outcome of the exercise. So if the outcome of the exercise shows that, okay, there were some concerns, but they could be easily dealt with within the existing structure, then yeah, I can't see why, the same thought, couldn't be followed through. But if there are other significant issues, in fact, you may, worst case scenario, let's say that 75% of the public service has a disagreement, a valid concern with regard to the structure, then it may mean that you can't move forward with the structure at all. So if you can't move forward with the structure, the discussion about going back to May doesn't even come in, because you're going to have to now redo an exercise. We certainly hope that's not going to be the case. I'm hoping that that's not the case. I'm hoping that we can, between now and the 27th of June, the public officials will submit all of the concerns and issues they have. We're able to look at it, and when I say we, I mean government holistically, the DG's office and public admin, etc., and can come to some kind of way in which we can address the concerns that exist.
Yes. You would have mentioned that based on the House Administrative Committee, that it would have been put forward to have ministers of government and other parliamentarians included in the review. What salary scale would you all be at? How much would you be making per year with the new review, with the new proposal?
Thank you. So as I mentioned, there's a scale. It goes from 1 to 7, and then there are different categories. And so when I asked about what the scale represented, it's something for the parliamentarians to decide at what point do you graduate along the scale, etc. So there's a wide scale. It goes from 1 to 7, but I can't say to you what salary falls within what for any person at this point in time. And in fact, it's also put on hold as well.
It's also what?
On hold.
Oh, put on hold, yes. And the last question on the salary revision. Number of persons have been raising concerns about the sustainability of it. I know that you said it is sustainable. What can you share the methodology as to how you come to the conclusion that it is sustainable?
Yeah, so that question was asked in the House of Assembly on Monday as well, and I would encourage persons to go back and to listen to the answer. The question was asked by the opposition, and a response will have come from the PS of Finance and the Deputy Governor as well. The methodology, or the amount, was tested against the MTEP, the Medium-Term Economic and Fiscal Plan, and there were scenarios, worst case scenario, best case scenario. So it was tested to see, in the worst case, for instance, if there was a hurricane, if there was a pandemic, etc., would government be able to sustain the increase? And the answer is yes. And so, and I think there's proof of that, especially in light of the extent of the relief we're able to be provided. I keep going back to that because it's over and above, I think, what many countries are able to do. We have the bandwidth to be able to do that, and we do have the bandwidth to be able to cater for the increase. The other thing I want to say is that, remember that this is a salary. Everyone's looking at the total amount because it's being brought on at once. But this is 18 years of repressed salaries. This is 18 years when the public service received 2 salary cuts, increment stopped. And so the question that you have to ask is, if you fast forward between what took place, the first cut in 2009, the increment stoppage, and come to 2026, when you calculate that, it brings you very close to the 41.41 million over the years, because you still would have incurred that cost had there not been these cuts, etc., going along the increment status, going along the increase in salaries, you would end up pretty close to where we are in terms of today.
Yes. And I said that was going to be my last question, but a follow up, because of the pause and review, there is a possibility that certain persons' salaries may be increased. That's part of the review. So that would mean additional funds would have to be put forward. Are we in a position to put forward those additional funds also?
Right. So if you have some persons going up, are they having some persons adjusted back down? I don't know. So it's difficult for, and again, the salary of this exercise is not really within our purview.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, we have to provide the funding. And if it is that after the exercise, there is a matching and certain things are said to be regularized, and it does create an increase, then I find it hard, if it is a regularization, to say, no, we're capping it at the 41, and we're not going to cater for the difference. You understand what I'm saying? Because if the idea is about putting people where they're supposed to be from 2009 to 2026, then I think it's something that we would want to ensure it's done.
My next questions are on the London office building.
Thank you.
Yes. How much would it cost to, what would be the recurrent expenditure then for operating the London office?
So like I said, at this point in time, we will come back to the House of Assembly when we are at that point in time. You've asked that question before.
Yes.
And it's something we're still working through. So you will get the information at the time that we are able to come back.
Okay. And I know that you mentioned that a number of the other overseas territories lease and some own. Have you reached out to your counterparts in the other OTs to understand why they lease rather than own after 20 and 30 years of being present in the UK?
I don't think I need to reach out and ask. It's almost as if you're chastising people. If for 20, 30 years you've been leasing and we take a decision that we're going to own, I think that every overseas territory, every country has the right to make a decision at the time that's most appropriate for them. What I can say about this administration is we're taking a decision that is most appropriate for us.
Yes.
And for us, we do have the ability to acquire an asset. And so we're moving forward in that vein.
Yes. In relation to the office, is it an office that is already the 21 Fleet Street? Is it an accommodation like purpose already ready to be
It's
moved
office
into?
spaces.
Is there going to be like renovations to
There
the
will
building?
probably be renovations, because when you move into it, right now here in Anguilla, we have office accommodations. Every time our government offices move into a location, there has to be renovation.
Yeah.
So I would imagine to some extent there may be renovations. If it is that some of the tenants in that location have leases for another few years, right? So if they remain there for the few years, you may not want to do anything until they leave. So, but I would imagine that anywhere that you move into, you want to make it fit for purpose. You move into an apartment, you make renovations that suit you, unless your landlord tells you not to put any holes in the wall, etc. But you tend to make things fit for your purpose, and we'd certainly be doing that as well.
Yes. I don't know if this is much of a question, but more of a proposal. I know that someone said it was it's a 5-story building. It's like a possibility for us to, lease some of that office space to probably maybe the other OTs. If there's a possibility to, recover some costs.
Yeah, well, certainly. Like I said, currently the 5 stories, I think the space is rented, except for the ground floor. Yeah, the largest floor is not rented, but the rest of the floors are currently rented, and they're rented to legitimate businesses, business operations, barristers, music school, etc. So, so if we had owned that now, we'd be recouping those costs.
Yes, okay. The next question is in relation to, I see some persons on social media complain about the minimum wage, It's if you add it up, you're working a 40-hour week. A month you may be getting less than $1,000, I know there was a minimum wage committee in place before. I don't think there's none in place now. How are we going about this to ensure that we put in place a living wage for the people of Anguilla?
So the question I have is, the minimum wage just came into effect about 2 years ago,
Yes.
right? Why was that minimum wage the set wage? Why was it set at the wage that it's set at? Why wasn't
Based
higher?
on the research at that point in time.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And I think the committee at that point in time would have reviewed annually to adjust if adjustments are needed.
yeah, but the reason why it was also
Yeah.
set as it was that time was because the feedback that they were getting from the private sector was that it would be difficult to have a higher minimum wage at that point in time. And so so there's always a tension between setting the minimum wage at a certain amount and businesses deciding, well, okay, if it's this amount, then I can't afford. If I have 10 employees, I'm going to have to cut down to 8. So there's that balancing act that takes place. But beyond that, and we appreciate the work. Let me put on record that we thank the minimum wage committee for the work that they did do at that time. It's difficult to put in place a minimum wage, especially when you came from none. So, but what we're looking at right now is we're also looking at other factors. So, for instance, one of the key policy decisions that we're looking at is the implementation of an unemployment benefit program, and whether or not that can be translated over to a pension fund. The other thing as well is that one of the reasons why businesses seem to be resistant at this point in time is because we don't have a 12-month economy. And so when we have the slow periods, these businesses still, for the most part, will have to support all of the employees that they have. And that has a knock-on effect when things go slow. So you want, and I think there's an opportunity for Anguilla when we extend the runway to be able to move towards a 12-month economy. And once you move towards a 12-month economy, then you can see that businesses are able to sustain themselves year-round. And then you can talk about looking at building from there. But we are aware of the minimum wage that exists in other countries. For instance, BVI, I think, is about $7 an hour, and some other countries, etc. So we're paying attention to it. I think that there are ways in which we can continue to support the people of Anguilla and our businesses, and at the same time move to a year-round tourism economy that can continue to support us year-round.
Yes. In relation to this building, I know there's a proposal to buy it, government to buy it, purchase the building. But recently, I saw the opposition's Facebook page share a video with persons in hazmat suits coming from in this building. They said it was mold. I don't know. I'm asking you now, what's the reason for?
Yeah. So one of the things that, yes, I think about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we would have brought in a company to be able to treat the mold that was being experienced, in particular down on the lower floors as well. And so it was done for the entire building. Now, what's interesting is that it seems like previous administrations took the position that if there's mold in one building, move everybody out and go to another building. And then when that one gets mold, you move everybody out and move them to a third building. That simply is not sustainable. What we have in every building, the hotels get mold. What are they going to do? Send their guests over to other hotels? No, you have to deal with the problem. And so we have a number of government properties that are sitting down that has mold that has not been treated and is not occupied. And then we have our people who are in some rented accommodations that have mold, right? And so what we need to get to is a point where we deal with the problem. instead of moving people here, there, everywhere, we address the mold problem. We ensure that our people are taken care of and that they're healthy, and we continue to do checks and testing. There are ways to deal with mold in buildings, and so I think this is one of the first steps that we're doing. We have to be able to deal with the issues head on instead of trying to because you're gonna waste money. We're about to start the construction of 2 government buildings. We put all of our departments and ministries in these 2 government buildings, and eventually I think the other 2 will be built as well. They get more. What are we gonna do? You gotta treat it. You gotta deal with it. You can't, evacuate everybody and put them into rented accommodations as well. So that's the plan.
Lloyd's Life. I want to start by saying my condolences to Cardigan. I consider him as a friend and of the passing of his mom. Madam Premier, you made mention of $10 million paid to Anglic. Is that from the statutory bodies included?
So the $10 million, remember there was a court case in relation to the water department and the government of Anguilla. The payment of the 10 million, or the allocation of the 10 million in the budget, because it hasn't been paid over as yet. The allocation is to make provision to deal with that, to deal with other cases that were unresolved. And you remember the previous administration were in back and forth, they were in litigation, and it was just a contentious relationship between Anglic and the government of Anguilla. We're seeking to resolve those issues.
You also made mention of, we know that the Trump administration is going to be signing the peace deal with Iran this Friday. Trump has already made mention of removing the blockade from Iran and the Gulf. After that, we should see the falling of the oil prices and everything after. I know this is speculating, but how soon do you see government removing the subsidies from Anglic and going back to normal?
Yeah, I think it's anticipated that even if the ceasefire and the deal is arrived at, there's still going to be repercussions for quite a while into the future. And so what we've done is we've set aside, we're looking at it, we're seeing what's possible, but we certainly know that we cannot maintain the fuel relief indefinitely. And so over the next couple of months, particularly as we go through the hot months, I think we're prepared to continue to give that support, and we'll have to see where we are after that.
Finally, a question not for you, Mr. Hodge, in reference to the People's Market. What is the status in reference to having it closed down?
Well, one of the things that we're going to be moving to do pretty soon is to have someone just manage the opening hours of the People's Market. It was refurbished, some time ago, and we want to see the true usage of the market, which is to, sell produce, to sell fish. So there are some plans to revamp the inner section that where the fruits and where the fish is sold from. Currently, well, as you can see, we recently would have installed some shutters, so it can now be properly locked down. I think the issue over the past few months we've seen where it would have stayed open, and then it would have been used for different purposes other than what it's supposed to be utilized for. So in due course, we're going to be closing the market down in the evening and opening it back up in the morning time. So we are hopeful that pretty soon we'll have that market manager in place, because the act does allow for us to appoint someone to manage that facility.
In reference to the farmer's plot, there's been talk about the produce being left in the field. What's the position with that, please?
I would prefer for the Honorable Cardell Richardson, who is pretty much over agriculture, to answer that question. He's not here with us today, so perhaps we can bring that question back when he comes, when he returns. We will have a full report from the new director, Mr. Dwight Carter. That report will be released because we're going to look at the overall usage of water. We're going to look at the overall yield of the different crops, and we're going to bring it to the general public. So I don't want to preempt the report, and I don't want to preempt the Honorable Cardell Richardson.
So I think that brings us to the end of this press conference. We want to thank those of you who are here in person and those of you who have joined us via social media and radio. Have a wonderful Monday and a very productive week.